we're taking a trip back to 1987 with a movie that features the world's dumbest and most inept cops, Marcia Brady, a Hollywood megastar before he was a Hollywood megastar, and a plot that makes absolutely zero sense. So come with us as we return to Horror High, where school spirit has never been this dead. We watched it, so you don't have to. So you know what that means.
Horror, so bad it's scary. Splitting up is never okay. Plot, who needs it? Don't turn on the lights. Cars don't ever start, but that's alright. Running upstairs instead of out the door. Good acting, what do we need that for? Horrible horror, so bad it's scary. Enjoy the show, but not really.
Greetings, everybody, and welcome to the next episode of Horrible Horror, the podcast where we watch the worst of the worst in horror movies. Movies so bad they're scary. I'm your host, Marshall Hampton. With me, as always, is Mr. Aaron Southworth, who unfortunately last week couldn't be with us, but he's back today.
So not with you as always, then.
Yeah, you're right.
With you most of the time, except for last week.
99.9% of the time, he's here.
Right.
And today we have another special guest. This is our first a repeat guest, Mr. Coffee Doug Jones.
With you once in a while. Hello, friends and folks listening at home.
All right. This is week 5, our 5th and final week of our August back to school month special here at Horrible Horror, where we are doing school themed movies. And this week's little gem was Return to Horror High.
So they were there once before. If they're returning.
Yeah, let's clear something up right now, because a lot of people...
This has to be a sequel.
Yeah,
Explain it, Marshall.
Everybody thinks this is a sequel, and it's not a sequel. Yes, there is a movie called Horror High that was made back in the 70s, which I did watch. Mm-hmm. It is not a sequel.
Yeah, so that kind of confused me, because I remember you were like, oh, we're going to watch Return to Horror High. I'm like, should we watch Horror High? And you're like, no, it's not a sequel. I'm like, I'm not sure about that. So, yeah, it's not a sequel.
Yeah, because the whole thing about this movie is back in 1980, this movie was released January 20th, 1987, and I believe it's supposed to take place in 87. And the whole thing is, they talk about in 1982, there was a mass murder at Crippen High School, and the killer was never caught. So, but in the plot of the original Horror High, the killer was caught, and is basically just a remake of Jekyll and Hyde. It was just a nerdy science kid who made a potion that turned him into a crazy, hairy killer. And he was shot by police at the end of the movie.
Why didn't we watch that movie?
Now, when you watched Horror High, did you watch it thinking it could be the prequel?
Yes,
the prequel?
yeah,
you watched it for this movie.
I wanted to see if it was, because my idea
to
was,
make sure.
we'd do Horror High and Return to Horror High and do a original and a sequel back to back, but they're not related. Even though for some reason a lot of people think so, but they're not. At least not in my opinion.
Welcome to the world of horror.
Yeah.
That happens all the time. Good luck.
So this one, it was written by Bill Froelich, Mark Lisson, Dana Escalante, and Greg H. Simmons. Directed by Bill Froelich. It's a hard last name to pronounce. I'm probably butchering it. I don't really care at this point. I found it on Amazon, and you can find it on Vudu for $2.99 a rental. Either of you find it somewhere else?
Same thing. I'm doing it through Microsoft, Xbox, $2.99.
$2.99. Doug?
I borrowed it from a friend. He's got lots of horror movies.
Oh, nice.
So he actually had an actual DVD copy, or Blu-ray, I guess. Really, the only thing another thing that makes this movie famous, or I don't even know if it's famous, but it's kind of famous, that this is George Clooney's very first movie ever. So you do get an early George Clooney.
He was in that? What?
Yeah.
I know, I'm just kidding.
And it also features Marcia Brady as a really weird
perky.
She gets turned on by blood and viscera throughout the movie. It's really strange.
And eats sandwiches and really sloppily.
Yeah.
Now you'll talk about. I didn't understand why she was acting that way at all. Like, so you think she was getting turned on by?
My thing was, she starts out when you first meet her, she's fine, and then as more blood gets discovered, and she's like,
the more the movie goes along, like the skimpier her outfit gets.
She gets all, like, turned on. Like,
she's unbuttoning her shirt.
Yeah, her police uniform is now unbuttoned. Her cleavage is hanging.
Her sleeves are rolled up.
Is hanging out, and she's like, oh, the blood was everywhere. He slid down like a slip and slide, and she's like grabbing her tit. Marcia Brady is like grabbing her tit, covered in blood, getting turned on by blood.
Her hair's all wind blown.
It's really fucking strange.
My girlfriend at the time, I watched it with her, and she said it was just great. She goes, how did they tell her to act in this? Like, what was the direction? Like, we need you to do this.
That would be a wonderful thing to have heard. Like, what's my motivation for this scene?
What was the direction she got?
Yeah. Oh, Jesus. So, all right. A couple other people know. Like I said, you do have George Clooney, who plays Oliver, who's like the first person who gets killed in the movie. Really?
He totally reminded me, seeing him too. If you remember, he used to be on the first season of Roseanne. Does anybody remember that? And
yes.
He was their boss, and Jackie was in love with him.
Yes.
And all I could think about was that. I think his name was Booker or something, but he looked just like that in that show.
Yeah, he's got like late 80s hair, like a little curly mullet type thing going on the back. It's
pretty epic.
Yeah, it's great 80s style Clooney. So I do want to say, before we get into the actual movie itself, this movie pisses me off so much. Like to the level that Blood Valley Siege Revenge pisses me off. Different type of pissed off, but pisses me off so much. This movie is basically just holding two giant middle fingers up to the audience saying, fuck you.
Good luck following this.
Yeah, and that's how I view this movie.
Oh, God.
It makes zero sense whatsoever, and it's really hard to follow. But we're going to do the best we can to break this down for you. So, it opens with the credits. You get get like a Star Wars style crawl again, where it says, again, until 1982, Crippen High, killer was never found. Now there's a film crew here to make a movie based on the events of what happened.
Only 5 years later. That's not very much time.
The school is now abandoned and all this stuff. So, speaking of 5 years later. That's the same amount of time that passed in Slaughter High when the school closed down. Slaughter High was 5 years later. So apparently it only takes 5 years for a school to close down after
mass murders.
Yeah. I think that's just a given. And even a TV show, when they flash forward or something, 5 years later.
Yeah, it's like 3 or 5 that you go to.
Yeah, it's pretty consistent.
Yeah.
So the first character you get is Police Chief Diner. He pulls up to a bloody crime scene outside Crippen High School. Marcia Brady walks up in her cop out, and she's, at this point, like I said, she's all prim and proper, looking fine,
really perky.
Yeah, and she's like,
looking fine, Marshall. Is that what you just said?
She was looking pretty fine. I gotta admit.
Well, I meant like fine. She's like, she doesn't look gross or bloody. She's like, she's fine. Not like
you had a crush on Marcia Brady. It's cool.
I didn't really watch it.
I'm sorry, Marcia Brady was keeping it tight. This is 1987.
Yeah, when they said Marcia Brady does, but anyway, so she's like, there's 6 to 8 bodies. We don't really know. Not everything's attached. So clue one of these cops suck. And she tells him there's only one survivor, and the chief's like, oh my God, this is happening all over again. And Marcia takes the chief over to meet Mr. Lyman, Arthur Lyman, who is the one survivor, and he turns out that he's the script writer, the writer for this movie that's being filmed. Now, at this point, I noticed, like, in the shot, the school looks like it's 10 stories tall behind him. So I'm like, what kind of fucking high school is this? I've never seen a high school go building like 2 or 3 stories, but maybe it was just the camera angle at the time, but it looked like it was a goddamn skyscraper in this opening shot. And Lyman is, at this point, he's basically in shock, just flicking a flashlight on and off, and he's in shock. He's useless. And we transition to a cop wandering the halls, and it's dark, and out of nowhere, an arm holding a lighter comes out of nowhere, just in front with the flame on, and he gets grabbed by him from another guy, and with the face all bloody, and it pulls him into a dark room. The lights come on, and boom, there's the film crew filming it. And there's like, oh, you fucked up the shot.
Yeah.
Boo on you.
So this cop that's gone in he's like a consult. He's supposed to be like a consult for the crew.
Yeah, he's like the advisor for he's an advisor.
So all of a sudden we're back in time.
5 years before.
No, this is
not
movie jumps all over the place. It's really fucking okay. We're back in time because the ending, it's not present where the cops are, but we're assuming it's like the day before or a few days before during the movie shoot, but not years ago as the original
The time
murders
shifts
take.
are so bizarre in this
Yeah.
movie. You don't know what's happening. They don't set it up very well. It's always confusing. You're like, oh, well, I guess now we're back to when they were alive. And
Every time you think you have it figured out, too, you just get lost in your thoughts.
Yeah.
You inception it. You keep
I
going
was
down
gonna
and
say,
down.
it
and
is.
you
It's like
fucking-
a
you
horror
can't-
movie Inception. It just keeps going further down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
So the film's like, oh, fuck you, you ruined our shot. And the guy with the blade face is like, hey, I thought he was Oliver, who's played by George Clooney. And George Clooney's playing a cop named Blake. There's a name tag on his uniform that says Blake. And the cop that he's quoted, his name is also Blake. So we eventually find out that George Clooney is playing the real cop who is also the advisor, technical advisor for the movie. Because we learn out that the real cop, Blake, was assigned to work the original murder case back in 1982, which is
okay,
bullshit because we also learned later that he was also a student at the same school during when it happened. So how was he a cop and in high school at the same fucking time?
I forgot all about that.
It
yeah.
doesn't make sense.
as you can see, Marshall's passionate.
Yeah, he.
So, oh god, my blood pressure is gonna go up talking about this movie. So the movie producer who we meet, Harry Schleck or Schlerick or something like that.
The producer.
That producer.
I love
This guy is a baller.
Love the producer.
Yeah, what is he from? You guys.
Okay.
Oh,
I already got it. The number one thing people are going to recognize him from is from The Godfather.
Yep.
He's Mo Green.
Okay, yeah.
He
God,
gets
looks
Mo
so
Green right in the
familiar.
eye. Bang.
The actor's name is Alex Rocco, and he's got 167 movie credits to his name.
Holy shit!
And he was trained under Leonard Nimoy
Wow.
to help lose his thick Boston accent.
Yeah. So yeah, he's also probably most recognizable for me is his voice. His voice is so unique, and he plays the owner of Itchy and Scratchy from The Simpsons. He's the executive, executive owner of Itchy and Scratchy. He's got that
Yeah.
voice he talks. I can't even do
That
it
was
justice.
good. No, you were very close. That
Can't even do
was
it
very close.
So the movie producer, this guy is born. He's big time, movie producer. He carries around a briefcase, and
Oh my
in the
God.
briefcase is a telephone and an 80s style answering machine, which is basically a giant cassette recorder.
It's
in
huge.
his briefcase.
It's a huge briefcase too.
It's kind of like the Zach Morris cell phone from Saved by the Bell, the giant thing, but it's a phone in a briefcase.
just way more epic.
Yes.
I bet that thing weighs 20 pounds.
Oh, easy. That thing had to be a brick of a thing to carry around. So they're talking, and the special vet guy comes up. He's talking to the director, and this girl with no shirt comes up. And she's just standing with her topless tits hanging out. And the director's like, are these the real ones or the fake? And she's like, no. He's like, I told you, no exploding tits. And he covers the camera, and you see her rip off a blatantly fake tit.
Because they were her boobs.
So
They
just
were her
so
boobs.
you understand, this girl's standing there topless,
Yeah.
and when you're watching it, you know those are her tits.
Yeah,
There's
right.
nothing
There's
fake.
nothing there to cover them up.
But it's like-
There's nothing fake about it.
No, but I don't know why they were trying to pass them off as those were fake tits.
Yeah, exactly.
It was weird.
But yeah, he rips it off like it's obviously fake, like something you can buy at like a Halloween store, plastic boob, and then toss it into the corner where it explodes. It's fucking.
I had to
ridiculous.
rewind that scene and watch it again just to let you know.
Okay.
Just to make sure those
Yeah.
tits were real.
Absolutely.
Alright. So Clooney at this point, he's on the phone and he gets a call from I guess his agent or somebody, and he says, "Hey, you got the part on some big new network show or something like that."
Roseanne.
Yeah, he got the job with Roseanne.
But I like the way he describes it. He describes it as a cross between Miami Vice and Moonlighting. The action of Miami Vice and the comedy of Moonlighting is going to be great.
And so he basically,
Yes,
so he basically just quits on the spot. He's like, "I'm out of here, suckers. I'm gone."
Yeah, he's like,
Suck
later.
it. So he leaves, and instead of I don't understand this. Instead of going out the front door into his car to drive off to his newfound hopeful fame, he goes upstairs further into the school, which boggles my mind. And
Yeah, that's a good point. Why did he go upstairs?
And so, like, I'm out of here, suckers. But I'm gonna go upstairs first and pop around for a bit.
Well, my first thought is like maybe he's going to go change or something, but later he's walking in that hallway, and the hallway's abandoned, and he hears some squeaking down there, and he's like, "Hey, I'm looking for the parking lot. Is this the way the park?" Like, no, why would you go upstairs?
The parking lot's upstairs. Yeah. And
So-
obviously you've been to the parking lot. You parked there to get there in the first place. Anyway, so he finds a door that has blood dripping down it, and of course he opens it up and goes inside.
And then he goes inside and he looks at blood dripping down, and he sticks his hand underneath the blood and lets it just drip
Yes.
for like about 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Do you really need that much confirmation that this is blood or something's really weird here?
Yeah, and then basically a hand with like what's the equivalent to like a yellow rubber
Kitchen
dishwashing
glove.
kitchen
Yeah,
glove
yeah.
grabs him from behind, and the door closed behind Clooney, and he basically, it looks like he's getting ass raped to death up against the door, like straight up prison style ass rape, because that's all you see.
So the
There's-
door's closed and there's a piece of
there's a
glass.
little
where you can-
window in the
little
door.
window, and his face is a bloody and just smashed against the glass.
And it's like, it looks like it's jolting a bit. Like, it looks like he's getting ass raped from behind. And then that's it. And then you see a bunch of blood like kind of run underneath the door.
Why isn't that picture on the internet all
Right.
the time with his face? With anytime he's in anything, like just making a joke, what are they, memes or whatever
Right,
they call
yeah.
them? I can't believe I've never seen anything. I didn't know he was in this movie until you told me that, and I couldn't believe it.
Wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe I'll go back and try to get a
Still
screenshot
shot, yeah.
of that, because it's ridiculous. So at this point, the producer convinces Officer Blake, the real Blake, to replace George Clooney in the movie, and basically, so he's playing himself now
Right.
in this movie. At this point, I'm skipping ahead because I can't deal with all this. I'm skipping confused, and we see and hear like this squeaky metal mop bucket being pushed by someone and mopping up blood from what I assume is the George Clooney ass rape. Now the squeaky noise it's heard throughout the whole movie. Basically, every time the killer is around or near, you
But
hear
it's
the squeaky mop
you hear the
bucket.
squeaky mop bucket, and so it makes it apparent right off the bat the killer is always carrying around a squeaky mop bucket.
Yeah, or something squeaky, but what are squeaks like?
But
there's
it's-
one time where you hear the squeaky noise, and it's like a camera crewman pushing down like lights on like a dolly, and you hear that's the only other time in the movie where you hear the squeaky
The
noise.
swerve.
Yes.
But every other time it's a mop bucket. So basically back to now we're back into like the present day or a present time, because we're back to the cops outside.
Marcia.
And Marcia Brady is talking to Arthur Lyman, the writer, and this is where he's telling the cops about the squeaky noise, and that there's always a squeaky noise. It was always there, constantly heard this thing. And Marcia's like, "Hey, look, Chief, one of those bodies is moving." And the Chief's like, "Well, check their pulse." And like, you didn't check the pulse when you first got on the scene to check if anybody was alive. You're just now doing it. So she bends over to take the pulse, and the whole arm, the whole arm comes off, apparently. And it's like a severed arm. She tosses she tosses it. The Chief tiny catches and drops it. And, oh, God, I hate this so much.
What does he say? Doesn't he say like, "That's a male arm"? I thought you said this was like. How
Like,
did you
that's a
know
female
that?
arm.
Or,
This is a-
or,
you
yeah.
know, like, we're just like,
And
they
she-
weren't all together.
But she keeps going back to how mutilated and chopped up they are.
Yeah.
Yes.
She keeps
yes.
saying they're so chopped up, they're so mutilated. We're trying to put it together. We're doing the best we can. It's what she's
Which that plays in later.
Exactly,
Okay,
exactly.
we'll get to that.
Yeah,
Yeah, you're right.
and-
Good call.
So at this point, the police chief is like, "Oh my God, what are we getting ourselves into?" And this is where Marcia Brady starts getting a little aroused, because she gets up really close to the police chief and like sticks her tits out.
really-
Like, she like sticks her chest
really
out,
sticking her chest
like,
out.
almost to the point where her nipples are touching his. Like, and she's like, "Oh," like I forget what the lines, but her body language.
keep doing it, Marshall. Keep making that sound. I was
You're
kind of
doing a
liking.
great
I was,
job.
I was liking what I was seeing there.
So, so now we move back to the movie set. So we're back in time.
Oh, wait, I had to bring this up
Yeah, go
because
ahead.
I don't know if either one of you noticed this, but somebody brought it up to me because you mentioned the squeakiness. And I noticed it. I rewatched 5 minutes into the movie, the first time you see George Clooney, and this is for you viewers at home to check out. when they're doing his scene and talking to him, and then the director walks up and he talks to the producer. It's the black guy that wears the white hat. Do you remember him? Like, he's helping the director.
Yeah,
and then there's like the cameraman, like the big guy always eating donuts or
He's
whatever.
got the hand tattoo.
Yeah. While the director is talking to George Clooney, if you look in the background, it's like it started at the 5-minute mark to the 6-minute mark. The writer walks up with a squeaky bucket for one. So that was the first time I noticed that. But that guy that is the big guy that's always eating donuts and stuff, he's standing with the black guy, the producer. He takes off, it's way in the background. You really just got to watch it. You can't hear anything they say. He takes off his white hat and he starts petting his head. And he's like talking to him and petting his head. Like they're doing some dialogue. You know how they tell you in movies or shows in restaurants, you're supposed to say watermelon. I don't know what the fuck they're saying, but it is not watermelon, and it looks like they're about to make out. So just 5-minute mark. I rewatched it today, and I really laughed.
Didn't notice.
I totally noticed that.
I did not notice it either. I didn't notice it either until I was told about it.
I do want to say, you might have commented this, and I was looking at notes and missed it, but I want to go back to where the chief tells Brady to check the pulse of the supposedly severed arm. And now, we haven't gotten to it yet, but again, this just points out how fucking stupid these cops are. Because if you're reaching out and touching this, you should fucking be well aware of what the big reveal is at the end of this movie.
Yes.
So,
God.
So anyway, we're back in, and Amos the janitor is pushing the squeaky mop bucket. Amos is black, and
Amos looks like a skinny Stanley Hudson from The Office.
now he kind of does. You're
Which
right.
I just
That's awesome.
political correctness. I do want to say it is important to note that he's black.
Yes. Oh, I actually have that. It's very important to note that this guy is black. And Amos and Blake have a conversation, and they're like, hey, it's good to see you again, because Amos was a janitor, still a janitor.
Blake was a student.
Blake was a student, blah, blah, blah. And Blake is like, so we don't know how long. Blake has been there forever. And Blake asks Amos, because Amos is also in the movie playing himself, and what's he going to do with his newfound fame that now he's playing himself in this movie? And Amos tells him that he's going to do those pussy films. And so Blake's like, what? He's like, yeah, I can do the porn, the pussy films. He's like, why? He's like, Amos, and he goes, I got 10 inches strapped to my leg and ready to go. And then he starts this laugh. He's like, 10 inches, 10 inches, 10 inches. And he laughs and he walks off. Like doing like this little jive singing thing.
Yeah, he really blacks it up.
Yeah.
He laughs the whole time, which what I will say is I worked at a video store for years, and there are people of all races and colors and everything. Like, they'll come in and they'll talk to you, and they laugh that way at their own jokes. And it's the weirdest thing when that happens.
Yes. I just worked at a video store too for a while. I know what you're talking about. So now Callie Callie's the main chick in this, and she plays in the movie, like the movie in the movie, she plays 3 different girls. But the main girl, her supposedly real name is Callie, the actor's name is somebody else. Anyway, it's confusing as fuck. She meets Principal Castleman, and she's asking, like, what about the girl that she's playing was like? You know, I want to know what she was like. And the principal is really, really weird. He's off his rocker.
Real creepy. Yeah, and he's always got, all throughout the entire film, whenever they put a camera on him, he's always got flies buzzing around him.
Yeah, he's always trying to catch flies. And he talks about the bloody murders and finding all the body parts over the place. Like, oh, there are eyes there, and there's a spine over here, and blah, blah, blah. And he starts telling the story about some of the kids and the murders or whatever. And this brings us to kind of like the first official flashback of the movie, which / movie scene 1. And it's like a mini story, like about some of the students of the original murders, like Richard Farley, the quarterback, trying to bang this new girl, like redheaded Sarah Walker, who's played by Callie. They just slap a new wig on her in each scene. And so Richard follows this girl into the locker room, and he's like, give me, I'm going to, let's hook up, blah, blah, blah.
He sees this girl, and he's like, ooh, well, that must be the new girl.
He made like the stereotypical bet with all the jock. He's like, I bet you I can bang her. Like,
right. So he's talking to her.
And before that, he was basically undressing the cheerleader girl on the quad out in front of everybody. Remember that? He's like piggyback riding her, lifting her top, lifting her skirt. Because that's what happens in high school.
Sure.
I remember that.
Yeah, I remember being
So he basically follows Sarah into the girls' locker room. So
He
you get
follows
a
her-
lot of tit shots in this
He
scene.
follows her right into the girls' bathroom, and they're all just like, "Oh no!" And like they don't seem too concerned that there's a guy
No, they
in
really
here.
don't. None of them run out of the locker room. A few of them kind of cover up,
Titties everywhere.
but and basically he's like, "Give me your number." He picks up one of the girls.
yeah,
that's
he
basically
just takes
naked
this girl's
except for her
towel,
panties.
throws a towel off her,
pick-
scoops her up over his shoulders,
Caveman style,
Like,
Yes.
he just goes, "You give me your number. I'm throwing Chrissy here out in the hallway naked."
Yep.
And she's like, "Ugh, fine," and she's like, "Stop it!" It was you could never get away with that shit
No,
now.
no
like
way.
this is a very 80s moment
Oh,
where
totally.
it's
Totally 80s moment.
where they're just really taking like objectifying women like to the nth degree. Kind of like exactly how you said, very caveman, throwing over your shoulder. It's like, I'm gonna throw this woman in the hallway. It was so weird.
So basically, you cut to Richard and Sarah in their car, and they're parking in the woods, and he's trying to do the whole car convertible. Let's park in the woods.
He's trying to score. She
And he's-
wants to go home.
and he's like, "This is where I lost my virginity." She's like, "Thanks for telling me. I don't really care."
I want to go home.
And then he tells her, "I just spent $17.50 plus tip on dinner, and now you owe me."
Where did he go?
Yeah.
Where did he go for dinner?
Yeah.
Mind, this is 87, so who knows? It could have been.
Ponderosa.
Yeah.
Yeah. I see. I'm just like, it's a little too much for fast food, but not enough for a nice restaurant.
Yes.
Doug, I think you nailed it.
Yes.
What can high school kids afford? I still don't. Yeah.
Which in these scenes, just real quick, as the actress, she uses the word darling. She's like a 20s actress or 30s actress sometimes. She's like, "Yes, darling."
Why don't you come up and see me sometime?
It's weird. It's weird the way that, it's just weird.
So basically, he's starting out in the process. He's starting to force himself on her. He's basically going to rape this
Getting
girl.
real rapey.
And all of a sudden, like, he gets her like flat on her back, and he kind of rips open her shirt. And then all of a sudden, the producer's head pops up from behind a blackboard, and his hand is grabbing the girl's tits, and he's saying, "Hey, we have to see some tits in this shot.
Lose the bra.
Lose the bra. We gotta go." And
Now, this is the guy from The Godfather.
Yeah, this
is
Mo
also-
Green.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, that was the best.
And so at this point, the girl's like, "Oh, this is so stupid. This is objectifying women. What's next? Get some ice in my nipples." And of course, you see some guy carrying a bucket of ice with nipples, and he turns around and walks away. But at this point, I just get so fed up with this movie. I stopped taking notes. I legitimately stopped taking notes at this point because I can't keep trying to describe it because it goes back and forth between current time, what's being filmed in the movie, what's being filmed, the night in between movie. It's so fucking confusing what's real and what's not. It makes no sense
To be
even
perfectly
try
honest,
to write notes.
this is also the worst notes I've ever taken on a movie ever.
So basically, what I'm going to do is from here on, we're just going to wing it. I can't take this movie anymore to try to describe it. So we're just going to, if we have some scenes we want to talk about, we'll talk about it. The next thing I really want to bring up is the sex scene, which is probably like a half hour later after I gave up time what I did.
They keep trying to pull the switcheroo. One thing I did want to talk about with this scene where they're filming him trying to rape her or whatever, and then the guy reaches in. She gets out, and she does talk about objectifying women, but it's funny because you talk about the locker room scene, which they totally objectify women characters.
Yeah.
But then they have this whole scene where this actress goes on her whole dialogue.
like a tirade.
And it's like a 3-minute thing. And she's not just ranting. She's making comments that I've heard recently on the internet from actresses talking about filming scenes, like current actresses.
Right.
And what I'm getting at with that, it's almost like at some point they tried to make a statement.
right
But
in the middle
how-
of this
yeah,
cheesy
what
horror
the fuck are
movie.
you like you just recently filmed a girl standing with her tits hanging out, and those are fake
With
tits.
explosive
Like,
boobs.
Yeah, but then you try to get this. It was weird. Like
This movie is beyond logic in all sense of the meaning.
So if right after if you were talking about just checking out scenes, actually right after that scene just happens to be one of my favorite scenes, and it just shows Mo Green. I'm just going to call him Mo Green, the producer.
Okay.
He's just, I don't remember his name. He's the
Harry
producer.
Schlereth or
But he's
something.
walking down the hall, and he's just, it's a long shot of him walking
Yeah,
down the
I know
hall.
what you're talking
He's
about, yeah.
drinking coffee, and he crumples up the cup and throws it against the wall. Someone walks by, he's like, hey, you're doing a great job. It's great to see you. I love you so much. And he walks past him, he's like, that kid's a fucking idiot. Then he just like spits on the wall, just keeps walking in the hall. I'm like, this guy's awesome. It's like this scene, he's just such a sleazebag.
Yeah.
And it's like a 30, 45-second scene of him just walking towards the camera down the hall. It was pretty awesome.
It's just showing you how they all are. All those directors, producers are just like that, right?
Yeah, and speaking of like that scene in the hallway, that's where we get like I think what's supposed to be kill number 2 because Arthur Lyman comes up, the writer. He has a short little scene with the producer, but right before that, you see some random actor or
Hold on, I think movie lovers are calling
Yeah.
in right
Yeah,
now. Let's
yeah.
take this call.
about if you actually hear my phone ringing in the background. it's not there. But you see some random crew member or actor get pulled into a door before this. They have the conversation, and then you see in the shadow of the door like an axe come down and like a prop head gets thrown up in the air. You see it pop up, pop down. Like if you're catching his head off, the head doesn't like go flying 4 feet in the air. It just falls to the ground. But so that's death basically number 2.
If you can count it that.
Yeah. So I'm going to skip ahead to basically death number 3 because I don't know where it is in the timeline. But you get another death of one of the actors who was in the scene with the locker room. He was one of the jock boys that he was making a bet with. And he's bringing like props, like which was the high school like shop room. I guess that's where they're storing all the movie props.
Right.
And he finds like a sandbox, which is or filled with like gravel or sand
That's
or
exactly
dirt
how
or
I'd describe
something.
it, as a sandbox. A
And-
sandbox in the middle of the shop. Yeah.
He sees
Yeah.
a magical nut or screw or something moving by itself on a table and it rolls over. It's like the old problem, like $1 on like a fish hook with a string. Somebody, points
Right,
something around.
right.
It's that guy, and it goes into the sandbox and it sinks below the sand or dirt. And they're like, oh, let me check this
Like
out.
quicksand.
Yeah. And he gets down, like, basically puts his face in it, and a fucking rubber glove on a goddamn wire pops out, and like, is supposed to strangle him or something, and pulls him down into the sand pit. And that's
This
it.
killer's got the strongest grip in the world. That's all I've got to say.
Yeah, and he pulls him in. But the thing is, you can blatantly see it's a hand. Like there's just like a white wire sticking out of the sandbox with a glove over it. There's no arm there.
Yeah.
It's the worst thing ever. So he goes in, and then like right after that, the guy who played Richard Farr, the quarterback in the previous scene, he comes in looking for somebody, and he gets like fucking like trapped like goddamn Bugs Bunny or something.
in like
and
a
hung upside
rabbit
down.
snare.
Yeah,
You know,
it's like around the ankle, and all of a sudden, oh, now he's upside down. hanging
it's
from
one of
the
those
ceiling.
like little clever. I don't know how they work, but it's supposed to be. It's you tie a rope, you have it on the ground, you step your foot in, and somehow it gets triggered, and
Yeah.
whoop! Oh, you're
Up you
suspended.
go.
Up! Oh, you're upside down, and oh no!
So that happens to this guy, and while he's hanging upside down, this giant fan on wheels turns on and starts rolling towards him.
It's like an engine. It's like a propeller. It's like basically.
It
It
at
looks
first
like
it
a
looks
plane
like a fan.
engine.
It looks like a fan when you see it moving, but then later in the movie you see it's just a propeller on like an
Yeah.
engine.
I didn't
So-
even understand, one, how it was moving. Two, it's like you said, what kind of suspension would they need to grab this quarterback jock and lift him into the air?
and hold him
and he
there.
can't even like crawl up or shake it down.
Yeah.
It's like, what?
The guy's like 6'4". He's really
Yeah, he's a
tall.
tall guy.
He's a really tall guy. So I'm guessing he's got to weigh at least 200, 220 pounds. And they show this bag that's probably like as big as maybe a grocery
like a
bag.
flour bag.
Like yeah, a bag of like basically. I'm like, and I was watching that. I go, that's not correct.
No,
That's not enough weight to lift that man.
Not at all.
I'm like nerding
Yeah,
out
you
over
asked
there.
for it. I go, why there's nothing moving this fan? It's on wheels and it just starts moving by itself, and basically, the propeller goes into him, but
Chops
you
him
don't
up.
see it.
off screen kill.
Off-screen kill.
Boo.
So, and that kind of catches up to where, then the other kill is the biology. There's a scene with the perverted biology teacher who's sleeping with students for A's.
Dude,
And-
yeah, that whole scene, that whole, like that was
Now,
like
you got to get into that a little bit, because that
Yeah.
was...
Yeah, so it's another scene in
This-
the movie, like the movie in a movie. It's the Inception like scene.
But it's long. It's like a good
It's really
15
long.
minutes
Yes.
long, and
Yeah.
it's like it's so outside of what's happening in the.
Yeah, again, it
yeah.
makes no sense. Why is this in here?
It's like you could take this whole piece out, remove it, and it would no one would miss it.
Yeah.
They just stuck
So-
in this basic 15-minute. Oh, it was almost like it felt like a short.
Yeah,
it really felt like a
It's
short.
Yes, it's supposed to be set in the past. It's
Yeah.
okay during that time,
It's
and they're
supposed to be-
and
this
they're
is supposed to be the
filming.
1982.
They're
Like, this is
filming the
movie.
scene of what happened, and what it is you're in the classroom, you're in a normal science class,
Yeah.
and the instructor, who is just creepy creeperson, not as creepy as the principal, but still creepy enough.
No,
but he's
just different kind of creepy.
He's picking on this kid. The kid that's supposed to look like a nerd, but to me looked like Clark Kent Superman.
Yeah,
Right.
I was
he's
like,
a
this
nerd.
kid would.
He's-
Every girl would want to fuck this guy,
Yeah.
and this guy would kill you.
It's
Like,
it's the
Professor
80s,
Creepy.
It's the 80s cliche or stereotype. Of, hey, put glasses on somebody and they're suddenly a
Yes.
nerd.
But so they show this whole thing, and I think what it was, what do you call it, the red herring? Is that where you're supposed to believe that this could have been the killer
Yeah,
for a minute,
knows?
for 1 minute,
Right.
until they get to the death scene for this instructor.
Yeah, well, the whole time, like afterward, again, the girl who plays Callie is in this as another girl with just like a different wig on, and after the class is over, the biologist's like, "You need to stay after, we need to talk." And I'm always
You need
here.
extra tutoring.
I'm always here at night, for you. And then on cue, like a slutty blonde high school girl.
look slutty?
She's like straight up 80s slutty. She walks in but don't listen to him. He won't give you he used to give me the attention, but he doesn't anymore.
Yeah, she was asking him, why am I getting C's now?
Yeah.
I used to get A's, now I'm getting C's, and he's like tired of her. Basically, he's just like,
I've
well,
fucked you enough. I'm done with you.
yeah, he's done.
Do you want a D? If not, get out of here.
I'll give you a D right now. Yeah. So basically, he's creepy, and then the scene moves on to he's closing up the school, the biology lab or whatever, and he gets attacked by the killer, and he gets strapped to a table.
Yeah, he gets nailed.
He gets nailed, crucified to this table.
And
strapped
it's
on
funny
nails to
because
his
the
hand.
music that's playing in the background is music. It's like it's remixed hymn. It's rock music.
They're talking about Freddy's dead, or dead little Freddy, because he kept calling the
frog,
frogs
yeah.
Freddy.
So
and Freddy's dead, dead little Freddy, and talking that it was ridiculous.
And
but
it's kind of like
awful
a scene
music.
of like him being dissected.
Yeah,
so
it
they
is.
nail his hands down to the table.
yeah, just like you do with the frog.
And it's playing this music in the background. It's a really weird
It
scene.
does not fit the
No.
other kill scenes
does
in
not.
any way, shape, or form.
totally
And
different
it's almost like if you watched a horror movie now and they do a good job of trying to homage 80s movies with the cool music or whatever. Not even horror movies, Drive, stuff like that did that.
Sure.
But this one was doing it in the 80s. And they were weird. There was no reason for this scene,
No.
and it wasn't good.
No, it's
it was
not
just
good.
fucking weird.
So the killer takes the scalpel and cuts his sternum, and eventually pulls out the guy's heart. But
And then puts it on his face.
We can't move on anymore until we talk about the killer in this movie. Now, the killer in the movie, I mean, not like. God, I'm so sorry. The movie within the movie, the killer from 1982, I guess was the best way to say
Yes.
it, is basically a guy in black robes and football pads. It looked like, but with what looked like the worst paper mache mask on. It looked kind of like if someone's like a wax figure melted face, but also looked like paper mache. And
Right.
Yeah, it's just
Kind of like a death mask gone wrong.
It's
you know.
the most.
My buddy said that it
ridiculous.
reminded him of not really Scream, but more like Scary Movie, where they make fun, where you've got Ghostface bleh, all high, laughing at you, like it's that mask
Yeah,
almost.
it's because the eyes aren't even. They're one side's it looks like he had like a stroke or something. Like half his face is all droopy, and
And he's wearing yellow kitchen gloves too.
It's totally the most ridiculous, non-scary. It's comical bad, and that's the killer from supposedly 1982, and what they make you think is this movie as well. So again, I'm just gonna jump ahead to at one point, Callie and Blake are kind of really the only two you really start following at some point, and there's a sex scene between them.
Ugh.
Wait. Okay, because I'll let you totally talk about that. But before that, the scene where they meet, And the only reason this was important to me, they meet up for kind of the first time and introduce each other. He takes her to a locker.
Yes.
Okay. And I just bring it up because it's before that one.
Yeah, it is before that.
Okay. They just go to a locker. He was like, I need to show you something. And he takes her to the locker, opens the locker, and it's whatever his name is, Scott.
Steven.
It's like Steven and Heather or whatever.
Kathy.
Steven and Kathy. And she looks at it. And she's like, why the arrow, you know? And was it his name that was marked out with an arrow?
Yes.
And he's like, that wasn't there yesterday in this locker. And she immediately, she's standing in a high school looking at a locker with a heart and an arrow through. She immediately says, like almost verbatim, you know what this means? It means that the killer must be back. And it's the same killer that was killing people before, and he's targeting people on the set, killing them one by one. The person I was watching this movie with was like, whoa. You're telling me that a fucking arrow through his name like gave you all that information?
Yeah, exactly. It's ridiculous. Plus the fact is like, he says it wasn't there yesterday, so it makes me think, how often is this guy going back to his old locker?
Yeah, good point.
Why?
Yeah. What
What
is wrong with you, psycho?
Like, I can get like if you're back in your old high school for the very first thing, hey, let's go to, and there's my old locker. Okay, there it is. But why are you going back to it on repeated days? It makes, why are you there in the first place? But your point's so much better. It's like, yeah, she gets so much from basically nothing.
Yes.
So,
and then they become like the dual sleuths. You know, it's like the Scooby Gang, kind of like let's find clues.
I will mention that Kathy is important because on that walk up to the locker, he's talking to her, telling Callie about that he dated Kathy in high school.
He was in love with her.
And they were like the prom dates or something like that. He's in love with her, and then as far as he knows, he disappeared. And Kathy's also the principal's daughter. And he's like, hey, where'd you go?
You don't know that at the time, though.
I don't know. It comes up soon enough. But
the timeline's clear enough, Marshall. You should have easily understood this.
But yeah, and he asked the principal, he's like, hey, where'd she go? And he's like, she's gone. She's in grad school or something. And Blake's like, oh, okay. And that's it for now. So the sex scene. It's at night, and they're in a classroom because apparently now they're sleeping
on set in
the high school. And you see outside the window at night a bunch of people like welding on like
they're
generators.
They're building something.
There's sparks. I don't remember because there's sparks flying.
They turned off the lights for their love scene, and the
course,
sparks are showing moments of their love.
Again, people are welding outside of a high school.
Yeah.
What are they welding? Who the fuck knows?
I saw it's probably like some generator or something for this movie. That I didn't look too much into, but I saw like, okay, they make it between actual sparks and the sparks between two.
So you want to talk about the love scene?
Yeah. So my big thing is this: they had sex, and afterwards, Callie wakes up, and I'm not even gonna try. I'm not gonna show. It's a fucking dream sequence. She wakes up, and Blake, she's like, "Oh my god, your gun's gone. The cure's here." Blake gets up, like, "Oh, gun's gone. Let's go." An arm comes through the tiny little window in the door, basically kills Blake with like a twitch of an arm. Again.
End of Nightmare on Elm Street 1.
Yeah, it's fucking pathetic how he dies. Callie runs out,
smashes the window open
with the chair, smashes the window, gets into the car, and is about to drive away when Amos pops up with a knife. He's like,
in the back seat, he's like, whoa, I got you.
And then you hear the film director going, cut, and like, all right, that was good, yay. And then Amos like takes the knife, and you hear the director like, no, Amos, and cuts Callie's head off, which again looks so badly done.
He basically touched her neck with a blade, and her head just popped off.
Yeah, it's that bad. And the film director's like, no, and then she wakes up back in the bed, and then they wake up again. So at this point, I'm like, is the sex scene even real?
Well, what?
Because you don't know if that's real or if that was for the movie.
In my mind, I hope that sex scene was fake, and here's why. Because if you look at the editing, while they're getting naked, which her hand, if you hold your hand out in front of you right now, and you spread your fingers apart, now put your fingers together. And then imagine her hand stiffly running up some weird part of his body. I don't know what part. That's how she ran. And then they cut to, I shit you not, children's drawings
Yes,
on
I-
the fucking
there's,
wall.
like, crayon drawings.
As they're making out children's drawings, them fucking
Again,
children's
this is a
drawings,
high
them
school.
fucking.
Why are there like children's crayon
I
drawings
wrote that
on
in my
the wall?
notes too. I was like, why kids drawing?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like a preschool or daycare. It's high school.
And it was the stiffest, most uncomfortable sex scene I think I've ever seen. You know, it's like they're like barely. I don't think they could tolerate each other very
Yeah,
much.
yeah.
They're barely kissing, barely touching, and like, oh god.
But that's a good point. Did that happen?
Yeah, like what did that? Yeah, you don't know if the sex scene was even real or not. So anyway, they wake up the next day, supposedly. Who fucking knows at this point? And she finds a blood trail from the door leading down to back to the shop.
drug all the way through the hall.
Now this
like,
is where I'm like,
huge.
this is where I'm backtracking because earlier, several seasons ago, Marcia Brady says to the chief, "Oh, there's a giant blood trail," because she comes out of school covered in blood. This is where her cleavage is open, her shirt's open, bloody cleavage, and she's grabbing it, just saying, "Oh, we slid all the way down the hallway." And it's like, is this the blood trail they're referring to in the movie now? Because I don't know why, but that's the only
Yeah, who
connection
the
I
fuck
made.
would know?
So they found the blood trail. It's basically like a giant slip and slide at this point. And keep in mind, at this point, Callie got dressed. She's wearing basically painters or construct like coveralls. Now, I just want to bring that
Yeah,
up. Make that-
coveralls,
she's wearing
definitely.
coveralls for sure as they leave this room to follow the blood trail. At
You
this
got
point,
me
I'm
in suspense.
Yeah,
I don't know where you're going
I'm
with
coming
this.
back to- but at this point, I'm still wondering if this is even real or fake at this point. Now, Marcia Brady's back outside. We're back to the cops outside. She's eating a fucking hoagie or a chili dog or something.
He's eating a chili
yeah.
dog.
And she's covered in blood, and the chili's like dripping all over the police chief's shoulder.
The chief's like kneeling down, looking at something. Marcia Brady comes up behind him and is just shoving this hot dog in her mouth, dripping chili all over this guy.
And she's like,
It's probably my favorite scene in the movie.
The chief, he pulls back one of the sheets covering the body, and you see the head, and it's such obviously a fake fucking head. It's like plastic and rubber. There's no hair. There's no eyes. It's not attached to anything. It's just a blank. And he's like, "Oh well, we got a severed head here. You know, we got to find the rest of them." It's the stupidest fucking cops. And so now.
And remember that again. I'm going to bring it up again because I know you'll talk about it. But remember, these are chopped up body parts.
Yes.
These are severed heads.
Uh-huh.
These
Mutilated beyond recognition,
Mul-
essentially.
mutilated
They can't even
beyond
piece the
rec-
body parts together
Okay.
properly.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Blake and Callie get back into the shop, and they find the heads of the producer and the director
Mo
sitting on a
Green.
giant box. Basically,
Mo
it's more of a crate at this point, not box. It's a big old wooden crate. And this again looks so blatantly fake. It's like the old it's like the old magician's trick of like you just put a guy in a box with a hole not big enough for them to stick their head through. That you can obviously tell they're just sitting inside this box. It's complete with rolled up sheets behind there for like a neck roll from the rest of their head on, and they're just sitting there. It's so bad, so bad. And this is where I want to know because Matt, now this scene they find the sandbox and she bends over looking out, and now she's wearing boots, blue jeans, and a V-neck sweater. The
Is
last
that
time
true?
we saw her, she's wearing coveralls.
You're right.
I don't really remember
Somehow she
that.
magically changed clothes between the hallway and entering the room.
Oh my god, you're right. Oh my god, you're right. Oh, but that scene also when they find the heads, she goes, "Let's call the cops," and the police officer says, "No,
Yes.
let's not call the cops. The killer can still be here." What the fuck?
I guess you say that you have a cop there with you, so you already
Just
have
call
a-
for some backup.
Yeah.
Well-
yeah, that would be the producer. Let me call some backup.
To this film's credit, you don't know what alternate timeline we're watching right now, Marshall.
That is very
you
true.
know?
We don't know where we are in the timeline of this movie.
Yeah, don't call the cops. That's funny.
So
The
Blake,
cops are already here.
Blake pushes, like, feels around and says, "Oh, there's a trap door down here. Oh, there's a tunnel." He says a tunnel, which again makes it. How the fuck do you know there's a tunnel down there? Because you're pushing on the floor. It's not until you break through it they're like, oh, there's a tunnel
Yes.
here. There's no way you would know there's a tunnel here because it's solid at first. It just dragged me. God. So anyway, the sand drains down the newfound hole, and they go down these steps and into this basement area. And they come across this room that's kind of like a classroom, also but there's an altar in the front, and there's this filled with decaying corpses, and they're all dressed in blonde wigs with purple headbands
flowers, yeah,
and prom dresses on or something like that.
And it looks like they're all. He calls it their class. Spoiler: the principal comes out or whatever.
Spoiler.
Yeah, but
No. Amos comes up.
Oh yeah,
Amos comes up.
Amos comes out and
like,
says,
and they're like, "Whoa, you better stop there." Amos like, "No, dude, I just found this. I want to make sure
The funny thing about Amos is that he's speaking so differently. Whereas before he was like, "Wow, I'm gonna be a porno.
Yeah.
I'm crazy. Wow!" Just, and then he's like, "Now look at all these people here. They are the murder victims." Of
And
someone.
it's the principal. I've been found for a while. I just want to make sure you guys are okay.
His personality completely changes.
And
yeah.
then he's like, and they're like, "Oh, there's one more seat open." Like, that seat's for you.
Yeah.
And Amos attacks Blake, and
So-
they start fighting.
And I'm watching this, and I'm like, "Hey, Amos is the killer." Okay, and
No, because in the middle of the fight, Blake pulls Amos's face off to reveal that it's Principal Castleman
wearing
under
a mask,
an elaborate mask.
wearing the most lifelike mask ever constructed.
The most
Yes.
lifelike blackface really ever.
yeah.
But the problem is when they rip the mask off, you have his white head, which now his blatantly white hands are showing.
Yes.
But
Yeah,
the scene
yeah.
before, it's totally 100% black Amos.
I
black
rewound that just to make sure,
Yeah.
and it's like the neck shows up white,
Yeah.
the hands are white. Yeah, you're right.
It's total
It's
whiteness. It's
horrible transition.
Yeah, horrible transition.
Horrible transition.
And so they're fighting, blah, blah, blah.
So
and,
it's the principal. Oh.
Yeah, and he's like, Castleman says that Kathy got pregnant because of Blake. So Blake knocked up Kathy, and Kathy gave herself an abortion, which killed her, basically.
When did Roe v. Wade pass?
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking she just could have gone to the clinic.
Yeah.
And Castleman blames Blake for her death.
So Kathy was the principal's daughter.
Yes.
Blake is the current police officer.
Which
And
they
in
do-
high school, they had a
thing.
And they do make a point when Blake asked Castleman about where her daughter is. They do say, "Oh, her name was Kathy Johnson or something like that." And Castleman was like, "Well, she changed her name because she didn't want to know that her dad was everybody know that her dad was the principal."
And they did talk. Blake did talk about. He told the girl who plays multiple characters.
Hallie,
He said that I lost my virginity to her that night, and then she disappeared the next day.
She disappeared the next day, and he hadn't had sex in 3 years after that.
Since
like,
then.
what a loser. Big wuss.
Yeah.
So again, that brings up the question: if she disappeared the next day, how the fuck did she know she was pregnant so soon? Or is she just something? I mean, maybe something else happened that she disappeared. But if she
It's
had
all-
sex and all of a sudden, oh, I'm pregnant, I'm going to give myself an abortion and basically kill myself.
It's all conjecture at this
It's-
point. It's just ridiculous.
So Amos is like, he basically ties up Callie at this point.
well, now he's principal, not Amos anymore. He's the principal.
Yeah, Principal
Because Amos
Castleman.
apparently never existed. He even said, Amos never existed, did he? So, if you go back to the
This
past...
is another fucking thing.
So this principal was also principal and moonlighting as an old black janitor
in the same school,
in
at
the same school
time.
at the same
For no real reason.
Yeah. So, and then on the movie set, because you see Castleman on the movie set, but I guess playing himself too. And then you see Amos on the movie set. So he's doing like some crazy, Bruce Wayne Batman shit, constantly changing these costumes. And that makeup mask has got to take a while to get on. And then paint your hands black. And then so
And
you get out of it again. Like, this guy, it's bonkers.
Yeah.
It's no sense.
Because that scene when he was talking about having his 10-inch dick and doing porn.
Yeah.
He was even like, Blake, you were always so nice to me. I remember you kids being hellions, and you're always a real good kid, Blake. So he was a full-time janitor and a full-time principal.
Now, and when Blake ripped the mask off, do you remember the line? He rips the black mask off, and Blake says, "Castleman, you honky."
Yeah.
I was like,
He does it all
the fuck?
I can't, that's the weirdest thing to say. If you're being attacked or somebody trying to kill you, and he's like, dude, you honky. You got me.
And before he made the reveal that it was Amos fighting with him, Blake punches him in the balls, and he giggles and goes, "Hoo-hoo, my jewels!"
Yes. It's so
Weird.
weird. So, Yeah, Castleman's like, I kept this chair open here, or I kept the corpse of Kathy in this basement / classroom basically since she died. So for 5 years at least now. It's been 5 years.
Yeah, / chapel. Like
Yeah.
I didn't know what was going on.
Yeah, because at first he's
It
like,
really looked like
he
a
calls
chapel.
it a classroom, but then later it's only a chapel because there's an altar with a cross and some burning candles.
And there's tons of dead bodies, and
Yeah, like tons of bodies dressed up the same. So he basically ties up Callie and says, "You're gonna marry Kathy now, and Callie's gonna be the maid of honor." And Castleman is going off full and blown crazy. And at this point, Blake's like, "No, I'm out of here. I'm leaving.
Monday Night Football.
Football's on. I want, And Callie's like, "What the fuck? What?" It's like, and she's like, "No, I'll kill her because she doesn't like football." So, and he's like, he says, "I swear to God, the first time I heard him this line, he goes, the Steelers are playing the Ravens." And
Raiders.
I know, but the first time it sounded like, because he says it so weirdly, it's like Raiders. It sounded like Ravens. Like, holy shit, is this movie predicting the future now? Because like the Ravens only existed in 1987. So I actually had to go back and watch.
There's no Baltimore Ravens.
With subtitles on, and it's like, oh, he's saying Raiders, but it's so unclear that I was like, holy shit, this movie's a fucking psychic.
It's ahead of its time.
Yeah, way ahead of its time. And of course, he's just sneaking his way over to a javelin, and he throws a javelin into Castleman, and
He impales the principal on the wall with a javelin. And the whole time, the principal's like threatening everyone. He's like, "Get back, get back!" He's got a razor.
It's a switch. It's like one of the old school straight razor. Like,
Right, it's a straight razor,
barbers.
and he's holding it so daintily in his fingers. And Blake is a trained police officer. No one else has any weapons except for this daintily held straight razor.
Yeah.
And he's putting it in his face, and my first reaction is just slap it.
Yeah.
Just slap his hand. He's going to drop it.
Yeah, and Blake actually kind of for a while gets his ass kicked by this old principal guy for a young cop who's supposed,
And he's in pretty good shape. We saw him with a shirt off.
Yes, yeah.
Mind you, ladies, it's actually pretty nice.
Yeah.
So at this point,
He's been hitting the gym.
Castleman's impaled to a wall with a javelin. He rescues Callie. They leave. Now we get back to the cops in real time, and they're like, "Okay, we're all going down to the basement now." And so they run down to the basement. As soon as they go down, and before they go into the basement, we do see a shot. It's brief, but you see Callie and Blake bloody and dead underneath a sheet on the lawn. So they're somehow they're supposed to have died between leaving the basement and getting outside. You never see how or why, but it doesn't fucking matter because as soon as the cops go into the school, all the dead people on the lawn sit up, grab the corpses, and the wire lineman says it's all clear, and they all get up, and it's an elaborate hoax.
So let's clarify that a little bit more. All right, so yeah, the cops are like, okay, we're going in. We're going to find this guy. They got M16s.
Yep,
They're
there's,
ready to
SWAT
go.
teams there.
They're ready to go. So they go, I want every man going inside. So they leave all the bodies on the lawn, just walk right into the high school.
Unattended.
Everyone's unattended. So the guy, the one survivor goes, okay, it's all clear, guys. Get up. They all sit up. All the dead bodies, which were so mutilated.
Mutilated.
Beyond recognition.
Headless.
Right. Body parts missing. We couldn't even match up the body parts. Blah, 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 blah. They all just sit up.
Yeah.
Guess what? They're all together.
And I will say the skinny black guy who had like the white hat, he came out of nowhere. There was no blood on him, anything. So, but he like just hiding behind a bush the whole time, like you don't see me.
Yeah.
And then because he's like, hey, he talks to special effects, says, hey, let me have my head for keepsake or whatever.
Right.
And they're picking up parts and bloody sheets and throwing them into a van.
And the
they
whole crew.
drive
So the
off.
producer's alive, the director's alive,
Everybody.
the football players is alive. All the people that you saw get killed are pretty much alive, except for George Clooney. And
You don't see George Clooney. That's
No.
right.
That's my. I do have a question about. I'll come back. I'll come all the way back around to that.
George Clooney's dead, I guess, for real.
Possibly. Yeah. So let's finish this out. We're going to talk about that for sure. Let's finish this out. So the cops go in. Castleman's still stuck to the wall, and he pulls out the javelin.
Yeah, the principal all of a sudden starts to move around, and he looks, and he's alive. He's pinned against the wall with a
Which,
javelin.
again, if this was all a hoax, he would have fucking be dead for sure because when he pulls that javelin, it's like a foot of blood on that thing.
Yes,
like,
yes.
Like it went through center mass straight through his heart. He would legit be dead. But no, he pulls it out of him and then
grabs the javelin
he starts going,
like a spear, and there's a room full of
a
cops,
dozen cops with
all armed to the
weapons.
teeth.
Yeah. And he charges them.
It charges him with the javelin, like, yeah!
And they just shoot him like firing squad style, just blast this guy.
He does it twice. He does it twice.
Yeah.
He gets shot, then
They
he
shoot him
stops.
a few times at first, like 2 or 3 times. Like,
Yeah, he brushes
okay.
himself off, gets back up, charges
again, and they just unload on him.
and the main cop, like, just his crotch a little bit,
Which,
goes,
again-
self-defense.
Again, I had to point this out. The chief, who says self-defense, this time in the building is in full cop gear, full police uniform, the hat, jacket, the blues, everything. But the entire rest of the movie, he's in street clothes and a trench coat. So when the fuck did he change clothes too?
Hey, man, he had to gear up for this invasion into the high school.
Yeah, and Marcia Brady's lost her hat. Her boobies are kind of
boobies
like her.
are
She's
covered
got
in blood,
cleavage
yeah.
going.
Yeah.
She's got her cuffs
So-
rolled up, leather gloves, and she's shooting the bad guy.
Yeah, so
I don't
the
know.
cops
I
now-
like Marcia Brady.
They shoot Castleman, so he would legitimately be dead. Like
Yeah.
they shot him.
Yeah,
The cops come back outside, see all the bodies gone, and again to show how fucking stupid they are, Marcia Brady's like, "Oh my god, does that mean there's still someone here?" And the chief's like, "Yep, that's the theory we gotta go on. The killer's still here. Some sicko took off the bodies. That's it."
and she goes,
she's like,
"There's
"There's
no
no forms
there's
for
no
that."
forms for that." And he goes, "Well, we're just gonna have to play it close to the chest."
Yeah.
And that's it. And then it cuts to Arthur Lyman in some room sitting at his typewriter.
And he's the writer that
He's
has
the
been
writer.
assisting the police.
Yeah, and he sits down writing, and he sets up a framed picture next to his typewriter
Of the
And
principal,
Principal Castleman,
right?
And he calls it Dad.
Dad.
He's talking to him.
Yeah. So this is his son.
Yeah. So while he starts typing on the typewriter, and you see blood dripping onto the page from somewhere, and
You hear the squeaking
you
wheels.
hear the squeaking mop wheels, and it zooms in on the paper and says "Return to Horror High" by Arthur Lyman Castleman. And then he looks up from the typewriter and smiles with this weird ass smile, and he says, "Dad." And then roll credits.
Roll credits.
Now, at the end of the credits, you get it says "The End" or is it, followed by more of the squeaky mop bucket sound. That's the movie. So yes, we are going to talk about the kills because
Good God.
this is where we're going to go straight into our favorite kill segment.
There can be only one. Favorite kill.
Now, the problem with this segment for this is that none of the fucking kills are really real, except for one can argue George Clooney probably got killed.
He got ass raped to death.
He got ass raped to death, and that might not be. That's maybe some some ex-convict just wanted some booty love. And who knows what happened to
yes.
that?
It just could have been a male rapist
Who
prowling
knows?
prowling the ground.
And then possibly the guy who gets beheaded
with
in the door,
the comical head flying in the air.
Because that's when again some of these make no sense. Like if they're part of the movie, you see like they kill, and then you hear a direct cut or a change, so you know that's a fake kill. But then the ones that are supposed to be real kills, it's so hard to figure out what's real and what's not, because most of the fake ones you figure out, but there's some that, why would they be fake in the first place if they weren't for the movie or if they weren't for the hoax? Like the guy getting beheaded by the door, what purpose does that serve anybody? Because nobody saw it.
Yes.
So is that a real one, like George Clooney, or is that a fake one? That
So
they just,
I think, for the sake of argument,
and the Castleman has to be dead. We cannot agree on Castleman.
I
He got
agree with
shot
that.
by
Yes.
cops.
So just for the sake of argument, we're going to say that any death that occurred on screen is technically a kill we can talk about.
Correct.
Is that good?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So so Marshall, I mean, you seem to be most disturbed about this.
For favorite kill, I am saying fuck this game for today. I am not picking a favorite kill because this movie angers me so much that they don't deserve a favorite kill nomination because none of them are real. Except a Castleman, maybe Clooney. And I guess if I had to pick, I'm going to say Clooney getting ass raped to death. Because in my mind, that's the only way that makes this acceptable to even think
And it's
about.
Clooney.
And it's Clooney. So
Yes,
Clooney
yeah,
getting ass
yeah.
raped, that's my pick.
All right,
Even
so
though
my
it's-
pick, and
oh.
going by my rules of just any death that occurs on screen is a kill. I like the science teacher, that weird moment, that avant-garde short when he's talking about the dissecting the frogs. He gets nailed down to the boards. It's weird music playing in the background. A very long slitting of his chest open with a scalpel, tearing out his heart, and the killer goes on, makes a weird mark on some anatomy dummy. It's a very weird scene.
Yes.
That's probably my favorite kill.
He makes a noise. He's like,
Yeah. He's touching that weird anatomy dummy, and he's like, yeah, it's a weird scene. That's my favorite kill.
yeah. I liked the girl getting killed in the car because it was so stupid, and it not only didn't happen, but it was so stupid. Like like you said earlier, they just touched her, her head falls off. It's stupid.
All right, so there you go. And next up is, as we start wrapping up, we're going to go into odds and ends.
Not only did they watch these films, they researched them too. Ugh, what is wrong with these guys?
Now, odds and ends, like we always start off with our rating system, our ratings for other sites. IMDb gave it 4.1 stars out of 10. Rotten Tomatoes had no official thermometer score, which kind of surprising because this is an 87 movie, and I'm not going to say it's a classic, but I would assume it's well known and been around long enough to get an official score.
It's got Clooney and Mo Green. And Marcia Brady.
And Marcia Brady.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Which
kind of
really
weird.
surprised me, but it had an 18% audience score, which in my mind is too fucking high. But regardless, Amazon had 2.5 stars.
That may
out of
have
5.
one of the lowest Amazons we've ever had, because Amazon's kind of run kind of high.
Yeah, it's surprising.
That is a
Amazon's
pretty
still run higher than
low.
normal.
That's a pretty low Amazon rating.
The only plot keyword I even bothered writing down was attempted rape. And the only reason I even bothered writing that down is because it just made me think, what sicko out there types in attempted rape into movies they want to see?
I wanna see
wanna
a
movies
film.
with attempted rape.
Something a little different tonight. I want attempted rape, perhaps.
Yes.
Return to Horror High, you say.
Trivia. And normally now is where I normally go into all the little gems and research nuggets I found digging up when I do all my research on this movie. Well, you know what? There is none this week because there's nothing out there.
Really?
Jack
Nothing.
shit.
The only trivia that I found on everything I looked up, that everything that, well, this is Philip McKinnon's movie debut and George Clooney's first movie. That's it. And Philip McKinnon, who's that? Who the fuck knows? I looked him up. He was some actor in the 80s. I guess he was a TV actor. Like, I guess he did a lot of TV shows and maybe soap operas or something. And this was his first actual motion picture, studio release. And then, of course, George Clooney.
And the guy who played Mo Green, okay, I can just talk about that guy all day. I love that guy's voice, and I loved his character.
He was great the whole time.
He was probably the most enjoyable thing about the film.
Yeah.
Was just watch. Anytime he was just chewing the scenery, he was knocking it dead. Anytime he was on screen, I was actually interested in what was going on. When he was gone, I was lost.
So
There was a scene with him in the stall where he was on that briefcase phone, and the girl Callie sneaks up to listen to him
Yeah.
talk about whatever they're talking about.
the
But
killer, 'cause
yeah,
that's her detective note. She's got a notebook, and she's like, and he says something about the killer, people missing. She's like, oh, and it's almost like she might as well just wink to the camera. At that point.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
What I got, and she writes her notebook
my
and then
God.
sneaks away. Yeah, it's ridiculous. So, again, since there's really not much else to talk about, I have some 5-star reviews of this movie.
Good God.
These special movies have a place in these special people's hearts. 5-star reviews.
Is there a budget at all?
No, normally we do the budget game, but there is no budget of information for this movie or box office information for this movie. There's nothing.
That's a shame because I like doing the budget game.
I do too.
Yeah,
so I wrote down some
yeah.
5-star reviews. I wrote down a little more than normal just because there's nothing else to really talk about as far as trivia or mess ups or anything. So Melissa Reginelli writes, wish there were more Vince Edwards movies like City of Fear. Mr. Edwards had a face of an Italian angel. Sure wish Mystery Science Theater 3000 was around. This would be such a great film for review. I think Vince Edwards would even get a kick out of it. 5 stars.
So basically, she's saying this movie's so bad it should be on Mystery Science Theater 3000.
Yes.
That and the fact, but she gave it 5 stars. She didn't even she gave it 5 stars because she's apparently got like a woman crush that makes her panties wet for this Vince Edwards guy, who is a minor actor in this movie. Like I looked him up. He's did a few other things, but really, like
Who is he in the movie?
he's just one of like the extra actor. He's like one of the film actors. Like he has no main part. Like I don't think this character even has a name.
It's just Vince Edwards.
Yeah, it's just Vince Edwards.
She's like from her hometown.
Yeah,
you know,
she loves Vince Edwards. So that's why she. And so another one. If I had to give this movie a rating on horror value, it would rate as the worst scary movie I've ever seen in my entire life. That I can agree on.
Okay, yeah.
However, this film has much more value than that. It is so painfully, horribly, terribly bad that it's good. I disagree. Like Pop-Tarts, so cool they're hot. First of all, George Clooney and Marcia Brady in a wicked, low-budget film is enough to make anyone chuckle. This movie also has a terrible plot and the worst special effects I've ever seen. This is a classic worth viewing again and again. It's better than Cats. 5 stars.
Better than
Are you
Cats?
Cats, like the horror movie Cats, or Cats, the Andrew Lloyd Webber Broadway musical Cats? I don't know.
Because I have to say, I would rather watch Cats than watch this movie again.
I haven't seen the Broadway Cats. I'm well aware of it, and I haven't seen the other movie Cats, which I think was Drew Barrymore, I think. But either one of those, I would much rather watch.
Andrew Lloyd Webber, Magical Mr. Mistopheles.
I'm well aware of it.
It's a very catchy song. In fact, we named our cat, when I was growing up, Mr. Mistopheles. Yes.
So
I could even sing it for you. That's how much I know of it.
That's okay.
I won't.
A short one. This movie has been getting such bad reviews, and I wrote this one set the record straight, I guess, but excuse the corniness. This movie was not meant to be a real horror film. It is obviously a satire. Think of it as the first of the subgenre that Scream supposedly started, except that it's not as straightforward in its mocking, except in the leading women's blatant complaints a couple times. This is awful, right? Also, the movie has a sort of predictable, non-predictable way about it. What does that even mean?
It has a predictable, non-predictable way about it. That doesn't make any sense.
No.
You have to choose one or the other. Either you're predictable or not predictable.
It's funny as hell. I mean, the stuff that happens is so absurd, and the police department is stupid as anything. I will agree with that. One of the best parts is that George Clooney is in it, and not even a lead role either. Anyway, this movie is a watch if you want to laugh type film, and keep that in mind. It's a spoof. Note, the 5 stars are so people watch it to boost the rating a bit. 5 stars.
That even says the only reason I'm giving this 5 stars is because he wants people to watch this movie.
It's so bad. Okay, there's 3 more. One's really short. And Mary, Return to Horror High is just as good as the first one. Well worth watching. Was pretty scary in some spot.
So this person thinks it's a sequel.
Yes, that's why it's not a sequel, Mary. It's not a sequel. It's not. It gets some better grammar and punctuation. Gem, and I wonder if her rockers are hanging out somewhere. I really like this movie. Yes, it's silly, but it's not meant to be serious. It's a spoof, plain and simple. And even as old as it is, the world's better than all of the scary movie spoofs. This movie proves that you don't have to rely on tons of sex and drug-related jokes in order to be silly and fun. It's very campy, but it's so much fun. I really love the song that played during the one scene. Unfortunately, I can't find the song anywhere. It was called Man for Me. Anyway, I enjoyed this movie. 5 stars.
Ugh.
She wanted the song that was played during the sex scene.
Is that the one? Did you look that up at all?
Oh, the song during the sex scene.
Yeah.
That was pretty hot.
Oh, this stuff I had done before I rewatched the movie. So when I was paying attention to the music, and I was like, oh, this is the song this person was talking about. It's played during the sex scene. And Mary or Jem, you just read the credits and it tells you what the movie is, who wrote it, who performed it, and where you can find it.
Now, I do want to say, like, the opening lyrics to that song were something to the effect of, I'm lying in bed and across the wall, I hear this love across the wall.
Yeah.
This is while they're having sex. This is just the lyrics.
Yeah,
I'm
just
lying
the
in bed and I hear this love across the wall. I want him deep inside me, but I have no one at all. And I was like, what?
Yeah, it's really.
It was like
weird song.
Doug, it sounds like you really like this song too.
I guess. I mean, I would.
I need to go back and watch this
Yes.
movie. I got 24 hours on my rental. I got to make sure I get back and get this song.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know if I have that in my vinyl collection, and I need it.
Last one from S. Snotterly. Fun little low budget horror movie, worth your money. Had George Clooney in what I believe was one of his first brief movie roles. Had the blood and a little cheesiness that most B movies have. Well worth your money. Just pay him attention to the ending. Could have you saying WTF? What the 5 stars? All one sentence, no punctuation.
I said WTF the entire time I was watching that movie.
Yes,
Yeah.
the whole time.
So, oh my god. All right, I can't in good conscience end this episode with just this movie because it makes my head hurt.
Now, would you recommend it to people?
Yeah, we're gonna go into that. No,
Okay.
no, I don't. And I wanted to. Like, when I was a kid, I wanted this. I wanted to like this movie. I want to say I watched it years ago. Like I was probably 10 or something, and I don't remember much about it. I remember the cover was cool, and I wanted to like it. I probably hated it back then, but when I was really hoping this would be like good, bad. But no, stay away from this movie. It makes no sense. It makes your head hurt. It makes you angry. I'm just tired. No, don't. I say no. No.
So I'm going to actually go opposite.
Oh, fuck you.
And I'm going to say, watch this movie. It's only an hour and a half long. But to be honest, there's just wonderful scenes with the guy, Mo Green, Roca. I forget his first name. Alex Roca. Rocco, whatever. Mo Green. Great scenes with Mo Green. Seeing Marcia Brady, I don't know. I was really oddly attracted to Marcia Brady in this
I'll give you that.
role.
I was kind of too. She is kind of hot in this movie.
She's so
but
I
weird.
knew it. You
It's-
both mentioned it many times.
Yeah.
I knew it. I knew
so
it.
not worth watching, in my opinion.
She's so weird and bizarre that just the chili dog scene by itself was just bizarre. I don't know, just for those weird little moments. George Clooney, and the times that George Clooney is in the movie, he's only in the movie for maybe a whole of 3 minutes.
5 at most.
Yeah, and he nails it. He's great.
Yeah.
He's Clooney as Clooney could be. So it's kind of fun for that. And just the bizarrety of the movie. We can all agree this movie is incredibly bizarre.
Yes. You talking about Clooney just makes me think of, like, you always think back or look back or whatever, but isn't that weird that he was on that set filming that scene? He had a couple lines like, I'm standing right here, I'm the whatever his lines were, but he's going to be a multi-billion-dollar star.
Right.
And he's such a bit part, you never fucking knew it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, people even remember him being there?
Yeah.
Do they even remember talking to that guy?
And the funny thing is, like, you can tell that the cover has been redone because his name is on the cover of the box. But at the time this movie would have been released, nobody knew who the fuck this guy was to get billing on the cover of the box. So you can tell this is the one they went back, oh, we got George Clooney in it now. He's the guy now.
Sure, and
But-
that's a huge selling point. That's probably one of the only reasons this film is still, I guess, I can find it very easily.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
because it carries the weight of that name. And there are those weird George Clooney fans, you know, who are, you know, there's those little...
They'll look for that.
Exactly. It's like, well, I got to own the first George Clooney movie.
Yeah,
you know,
of course.
Yeah.
The cover, the modern cover has George Clooney, Maureen McCormick, which is Marcia Brady, and then the girl that was her obsession, Vince Edwards. Those are the 3 names on the cover poster now. But the original one, I don't think they were on it. It was a different cover.
There was a movie recently where I think, just 2 examples I think of with that, and this is kind of related, but Sandra Bullock did a movie way back in the day, you know, where she's naked or whatever, and it never got released, and then she was in Speed and all these movies, whatever.
And then it's like, ooh, Sandra Bullock boobs.
Yeah, so they released it. She tried to fight it, but they had the rights to it. But there was a movie.
sorry.
There was a movie recently, and I want to say it's Jesse Eisenberg, and I could be wrong about that. I have him or Joseph Gordon-Levitt in my head, where they re-released the DVD, and they put them on the cover, like main person or whatever, and that actor came out and said, I'm not ashamed of that movie. It was one of my first movies. I'm suing the company because I don't like that they're trying to get my fans to buy this movie when I'm in it for 1 minute and I'm not the star. And he was like, if I win anything, I'll donate it to charity. He was like, I don't like that
Wow.
movie companies fuck people. And I cannot remember what that movie. It was so recent. It was like in the last year, but that's very interesting. I didn't know there was DVD copies with George Clooney and Maureen McCormick. But that's exactly what they're gonna do.
Yeah.
How could they not? They've got you.
But Marie McCormick was obviously like, hey, it was like, hey, right at the time, it's like Marcia Brady. Everyone knew who she was.
Yeah.
So it's not like it was a swerve or a trick or
No.
like a flip. You happen to stumble
Yeah,
upon
but at the
this
same
gem.
time, it wasn't like her Brady Bunch prime. 'Cause
Well,
she's obviously-
exactly.
And
This
she
was-
wasn't even like the main lead. Like,
Yeah, and this was
the girl played Callie was the main lead.
she was
and
post
she doesn't
Brady
get
Bunch.
billed at all.
So yeah, I mean, you get why they
yeah,
have
I
that.
totally get. Anyway, we're totally off topic.
But I'm
we're
also-
still on Doug's
Yeah.
recommendation.
Would you recommend this movie, Doug?
The only reason, and Marshall will want to punch me in the mouth for saying this, I can't recommend it. He's gonna hate me for saying that. And this, when I make the joke about ahead of its time, I feel like this movie. It's not good. They don't succeed in anything that they're trying, if they're even trying. But what they do, where they're jumping around in between scenes and trying to make you think and figure out where you are in the movie, I feel like that's a very current trend. Not
Tarantino.
not in 80s horror movies like that. And I don't know if the director was trying that or if he wasn't, but that's where I'll say it's kind of neat to see a movie. They didn't even try, but you see it. You
Take the word "try" out of there.
You see it happen. You see them sometimes wander into so bad it's good, and they don't ever really get there.
No.
Right.
But then they also, jumping the timelines and trying to make most people hate Wes Craven's New Nightmare. That's a Freddy movie.
Yeah.
It's set with the real actors that play. I fucking loved that.
I
movie.
also liked it
and
too.
when I watched it in the 90s, I was like, nobody's gonna like this, and it's so great. Like, they don't get it. In me personally, and I feel like this could have been that. It wasn't at all. So, I mean, watch it at your own risk.
Watch it. So
there you go.
I have
Disclaimer.
to go with what you're saying there, because when I am watching this movie, there are little flashes here and there of some pretty interesting, cutting edge type of cinematography, and it's just interesting to watch, but it just falls short. Another thing I think this movie kind of had a problem with, or couldn't make the decision between, is it a spoof, fun, satire-y little play on horror, or is it a fucking horror movie? They never, ever made that distinction between the two, because they're always bouncing back and forth.
That's a very good point.
You can't decide whether you're having fun and being satirical or whether or not you're an actual horror
And that's
movie.
that's another reason why I get upset with the people who write in the 5-star reviews that, oh, it's satire, people. It's not supposed. Those reviews came like a recent. Like, it's easy to look back on this now and okay, maybe it was satire. But I think if at the time, you cannot say for sure that that's what they were going for.
Right.
At the time, I mean, you look at the trailers, you look at the way it's marketed and everything about
Right,
it.
the
It's
trailer's
marketed and
great.
set like it's a real horror movie.
They
Yes.
never made that
There's
distinction.
no, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
There's no hinting like, okay, people, this is a satire, this is spoof, it's meant to not be safe. They market it comes off like it's supposed to be a real horror movie. So that's what I take it as, and it fucking sucks.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, you get into ones though that it's hard. Okay, so in my opinion, like Cabin in the Woods was definitely not a spoof. Have you guys seen that?
love it.
And not even marketed as a spoof, but in that they homage things a lot, and you would thankfully they didn't put that in the previews as much.
Exactly.
But you're right. Like back in the day, you don't know what the fuck I don't even know if this director was trying to make a statement. We had the girl giving the whole speech about like women not being treated
It was
equally.
like a
in this-
3-minute scene. Yeah.
was that meant? Did she just like beg him to do it? You don't fucking know because they jump so everywhere.
Because like if you compare it, like one of the reviewers said, "Oh, it's like Scary Movie, only better." But Scary Movie, when it's advertised, you
know what you're
damn well
getting
know
into.
It's a spoof. They make, hey people, this isn't serious. Like I said, you watch a trailer, you look at all the trailers, all the marketing they did for it. It's marketed as a legit horror movie. So that's how I take it, and it fails.
And there's also a scene when you were talking about how the lady made her 3-minute speech about feminism and kind of like what's being portrayed of women being
Feminist
objectified.
masks and stuff.
But there's also a scene with the director who's talking about how he needs to make an artistic film and something with subtlety, and he goes,
Yeah.
Yeah,
that was a long scene too. And then the producer Mo Green is going, "No, we need more blood. We need more tits. We need more ass. We need more, killing." And the directors, and they're arguing back and forth for like a good 3 or 4 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like, what were they going for there?
Who
Huh.
knows? All right. So for me, I don't want to leave any listeners with a bad taste in their mouth for this. So if you do watch it, like Doug and Aaron said, disclaimer: watch it at your own risk. I do want to recommend another movie that I watched while trying to figure out what movie to do for this episode, and it's called Final Exam, and it's a 1981 horror movie, and I could only find it on YouTube, but it's not great by any means, but compared to this, it might as well be Citizen Kane. It's watchable.
I've never seen Citizen Kane.
Flaws, but it's not bad. It's
neither.
surprisingly well done for its low budget and time that it was made in. I use this very loosely, but it's kind of similar to the original Halloween movie in the fact that it starts off a little slow and it's very focused on the characters, and it builds up to like where the last 20 minutes or so is really where all the meat and potatoes are. But it does it in a way that it's still kind of entertaining enough and enjoyable enough to watch.
Final Exam.
Final Exam. I found it on YouTube. Look, there's other movies called Final Exam, but this one, look for the 80s one. It's definitely very distinctive.
Just to let you know, I'm going to watch it, and if it doesn't remind me of my favorite horror movie, Halloween, I'm going to be at your house at 3:30 in the morning.
Okay, well, at least I know what time. I did say loosely. Loosely.
I said loosely, Doug. Get out of my yard. You son of a bitch.
So, all right. I think that's going to start wrapping this up.
Hey, I do have a request.
All right, Doug has a request.
From a listener.
Uh-oh.
For the two of you to review the movie Street Trash. Have either one of you seen
I've not
this?
heard that one.
Ooh.
Well, I have not seen it, but when you two watch it and review it, it's going to star your favorite star, Chocolate Chip Charlie.
Oh,
Yes.
And
Yes. It's a callback to our
Wait,
original.
tell me, is it Garrett Morris, or please tell me he's playing Chocolate Chip Charlie?
No, I
not the same
don't
character.
think there's a crossover. I don't think there is.
Are you going to say, was Mo going to come back?
What I do understand is there is a person, I just like vaguely looked it up because I don't want to get spoiled, but a person discovers a Viper's Brew, which is some kind of wine in a basement, and he sells it to hobos for $1 a bottle, and it makes them melt and disintegrate. And that's the movie. That's the horror movie. So these two hobos are trying to fight against this wine that's being spread throughout the hobo community.
That seems like a homeless version of the stuff. In a weird way.
Kinda.
Yes.
Yeah. That's
So-
a great.
Are you sure it's not Chocolate Chips Charlie?
No, it's not. And my friend that has listened to every one of your episodes, he goes, tell them the two of them need to review Street Trash because it fits in with what I can't testify to that, but I needed to bring it up.
Great.
All right.
We'll check it
I will
out.
look- I
Yeah.
have it written down. I will look that up.
Thanks.
All right. Yeah, we're going to wrap up. So remember to follow us on Facebook and like us and follow us there. Our website, horriblehorrorpodcast.com. You can get all of our episodes there and follow any updates and news we have on Twitter at SoBadIt'sScary. We're also, you can find episodes on podbean.com. That's horriblehorror.podbean.com. And, of course, the almighty iTunes.
Yes, iTunes is the mothership.
Yeah, it's
You
kind of
know, that's the
mothership right
big
now.
one. Yeah.
Of course, that everybody knows that's free, so you can subscribe, download, free. It's all free. Rate us, like us, and continue to follow us. And yeah, like Doug's friend, if you have any suggestions
requests,
or
yeah.
comments on past movies or anything you just want to be said or let know, feel free to email us on our website, drop us a remark on Facebook or on Twitter, and just let us know your thoughts. And like I said, maybe we'll do the movies you suggest. So I guess that's again wrap us up. I want to say thanks for Doug again for being our first repeat guest.
Hey, I want to say thank you very much.
Doug,
I've had
the
a lot of fun.
two-time.
Yes, it's awesome. I've
it's
had a great
we're supposed
time.
to say that,
This show's awesome.
He's a, like we officially say, a friend of the show. Is
Yeah.
a friend of the show.
I like that.
So I'm Marshall Hampton.
I am Aaron Southworth.
All right, till later.
And thank you, Coffee Doug,
Coffee
again.
Doug.
Till
Thank
in
you.
much time, watch more horror movies. We'll talk to you later.
Hugs and kisses.